I'd like to welcome in a member of Congress who sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Democratic Representative Jim Costa of California. Congressman, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. I want to talk about the news that really is the big headline. We now see the attack plans as revealed by the journalist. How would you describe what we've seen?
Well, President Harry Truman once said the buck stops here. And clearly, the administration's response to this major, I think, break in intelligence protocol is playing out. We were compromised, and in doing so, American men and women were put at risk unnecessarily. Thank God no one was killed or injured as a result of this breach in protocol. But it's very clear in the testimony today that the national intelligence person is now walking back her comments in her testimony of yesterday. I don't get it. There was a breach in protocol, and they ought to owe up to it. And the buck should stop here instead of blaming Goldberg, the Atlantic magazine, or others for this, I think, very, very critical effort in terms of how we move forward and how our allies look at us, because I can tell you they are questioning our ability to maintain our intelligence protocol.
Yeah, so Congressman, talk more about how you would describe what has been said publicly so far by those involved, not only what we've heard in today's hearing, what we heard in yesterday's hearing, and also from the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, who said there were no war plans shared.
Well, that is truly not consistent with the truth, but that doesn't surprise me from the Secretary of Defense. What we know is that times, the dates of the launch of the attack, the weapons that were used, were all part of this signal chat that clearly was available to others and to our adversaries, Russia and China. That information that could have been related to Iran and then ultimately to the Houthis. So clearly, why don't they just own up to it, that they made a mistake, that this conversation that was had by the highest levels of our American defense makeup should have done the appropriate protocol, which is what we do as members of Congress. When we get regularly classified briefings, as you know, we are required to go to sensitive compartment information facilities called SCIFs to have those conversations. There are clear protocols within the CIA, the Department of Defense, the Department of State on how these conversations should be taking place. They were not followed. That's clear.
Congressman, do you think someone should be disciplined, possibly fired, and if so, whom?
Well, yes, if this happened at a lower level, the chain of command would require that those individuals that were responsible for this breach of our intelligence protocol would be held accountable. And I think this should be no exception. If people of our military and our Central Intelligence Agency are required to follow the law, so should those at the highest level. Whether it's the Secretary of Defense, who published the timelines, the weapon systems that were being used, and the targets. If he is, in fact, responsible, he should be held accountable.
Well, sir, as you know, there will be a White House press briefing later today. No doubt this will be asked about, I'm sure, numerous times. What do you think we'll hear, and do you think we need to hear more from the president directly?
Well, I believe so. But as you know, since this story was reported over the weekend, the comments that have been made in the White House, as well as by various cabinet officers, have changed daily as more information has come out. And then finally, last night, when the White House indicated that this was not classified information, I think the Atlantic editor, Goldberg, had no other response but to publish the entirety of the classified briefing that he was inadvertently made a part of. And so therefore, clearly, the White House's problem, I think, today is that they've been inconsistent in getting the word out and staying with what actually happened. And that was a breach of protocol. Owe up to it. As President Truman said, the buck stops here. People make mistakes. We understand that. And ensure to the American people that this will not happen again.
Well, my last question for you, Congressman, many are very concerned, obviously. We're hearing it more so on the left. Many on the right are downplaying it, saying that this was a big mistake, but a mistake nonetheless. What do you think happens next?
Well, these are some of the same people who, during a different administration with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, continued to say, lock her up. Lock her up, lock her up. I can guarantee you that if the President Biden were still in office and this happened, impeachment proceedings would be taking place as we speak. It's a double standard here. Let's be clear about that. And so I think it's important that as Americans, as members of Congress, that we all share the common goal. And that is what? To protect America's security, to protect our relationships with our allies. The Five Eyes. I mean, how do we know, or how do they expect that we're going to be able to maintain confidence in the future? And these are the kinds of assurances we need to make to the American people and to our allies in Europe and other parts of the world. And then with those assurances, say we will not do this again and move on. It's very, I think, easy to understand.
Do you think this makes
Instead
America
of denial.
Do you think this makes America appear weaker on the global stage?
I think it makes us appear to be unable to have this administration to have a common goal of maintaining intelligence, not only for ourselves, but for our allies. And they are saying, in a Zoom that I just had this morning with a number of Europeans, my gosh, what's going on in your country? And we have to ask those same questions of members of Congress. We need to get our act together. This administration needs to be able to speak the truth and admit when they've made a mistake instead of denial and pointing fingers elsewhere. That doesn't solve the problem.
Representative Jim Costa of California, thank you so much for your time.